of the questions that have been coming up really quite intimately in the last 2 or 3 weeks. We just came out of a retreat, the Zen Center retreat, and it's our longest and I would say probably our most potent retreat. And what most are not really prepared for is when there's a deep abidance, and I use that word quite precisely. And abidance is different than looking for something or searching for something or wanting an experience. An abidance actually allows the attention to rest and fuse, if you will, into the ground of being. And so that sense of the person that is identified with thoughts, with future, with past, with all of where the minds go, that the attention comes back to that deep, silent ground. And then it actually can then see where the mind goes, but it's not identified as that particular conditioned mind stream. It's a really huge difference. And in that deep abidance, that deep silent being, the space becomes recognized and made aware. And that space is the allowance, if you will, that not only invites deep conditioning that has been overlaid for lifetimes, a lifetime, this whole life, overlaid with denial, projection, compensating behaviors. And those deep-seated patterns are the very charged patterns that draw the attention away from this deep sense of ease and being to that, to the identification of these particular patterns. So what I'm trying to get at, the very thing that brings about this self-recognition, this abidance, also invites forward, because now there's enough space and enough brightness, it's like bright awareness, to then allow these deep-seated patterns to come to the surface of consciousness. So it's like there's nothing new that's happening. It isn't like all of a sudden we're hit over the head with these, terrible kind of highly charged conditioned patterns. It's a grace. It's like this open, bright awareness now can see that first and foremost these conditionings are coming from the past. They're not at all current. And the other, they can, perhaps there's a kind of an understanding, an insight that starts to take place by the mind being able to see it as well, and it's like, oh, that's how that went, or it's like gaining insight to what appeared to be just a victim and a perpetrator, or just shame or rage, or there's actually understanding that starts to come forth in this bright awareness. And one then can give permission in the best way that's possible to not have to take it apart or even analyze it particularly, but just say yes. Yes, let this be freed, let this be seen, let this be liberated. It's no longer true, it's no longer valid, and yet the unconsciousness is played out over and over in our daily lives until we begin to actually see that it's all from the past, it's all conditioned, and they're just like frozen images held in time and space, held in memory, really is all it is. But because of this bright awareness, and retreats really allow that to take place, the spaciousness and the brightness, then it calls them forth. But it's an act of love. All moments, the appearances that come up in the moments, they really are attempting to come to just resolution. Every moment, every appearance in one's life, whether it's highly charged or whether it's beautiful or whether anything in between that, is just coming up, it's expressing, and then it dissolves back unto itself. That's how it functions. That's how life actually functions. But in most cases, if it's highly charged, there's a shock, it's pre-verbal, there just isn't the tools or the ability to see what's happening and to let it be resolved, coming from your own wisdom, then there's like a collection or a reservoir that starts to take place, bubbles of unconsciousness. And so during a retreat, and bringing the attention back to the deep ground of one's being, then it activates it, it brings it forth. So if there is an understanding of what's really happening, it may not be pleasant. I mean, it's been pushed down for a reason and denied, because it's usually full of pain. But it's coming from a different place, meaning that pain is being experienced from a very different place. If there's just this openness, as much space as possible that can be given to just let it reveal itself, without needing to deny it, or it's a mistake, or this is too much, or a kind of a shame, a denial of it in some way, then of course there's this constricted environment that it's trying to come up in, and it actually creates much more suffering, and suffering is coming from where there's ignorance or unconsciousness. But if you make it conscious, this is what's happening. Yes, it can be quite painful at times, but this is a good thing. It's clearing out these deep pockets of denial, and now one can move through life without these compensating behaviors, or denial, or projection, or whatever it is that the mind wants to do. And something else I think is very important to understand is those denials or pushing it down, repression, all of that, it wasn't a mistake. It wasn't that someone was wrong to do that. It was just simply there wasn't the capability, or maybe the maturity to be able to be with it. But now, with this sort of sense of settledness, of abiding as our own ground, our own nature, and that kind of open, spacious quality that really is love, is curiosity. It's interesting. It's engaged. That's the invitation, and it's not a mistake that it's happening within your life. So it doesn't always happen, you know. I had a wonderful meditation teacher tell me that you can leave a retreat and it is, you know, sort of bliss and open and clarity, or, you know, it can leave you raw and vulnerable and, you know, like, what happened, you know. But so you can't really decide which way you're going to feel after a retreat, but there will be a magnification of what is. And so when you understand it, when you welcome it, if you can give yourself time to move through it, it's a great blessing. It's actually a great grace. I have such a respect and honor for those who are willing to let that resolution happen, to bring this forth in a way that their lives are actually freed from these deep conditioning rather than just compensated. It's such a great blessing. I'm just so grateful to participate in this great grace.